Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to do an extreme landslide scenario, not even a best case scenario, but an extreme landslide scenario for Vice President Joe Biden against President Trump. So I'll obviously do this for President Trump, but I'm going to start out with Joe Biden, and yes, this is essentially what if Donald Trump only wins 10 states. So essentially the 10 reddest states in the Union. And by the way, I do plan to be releasing an election night coming soon, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about the states that would be going blue in this scenario. And start out with, and we're not going to do margins, just going to start out with all the states that I think will go blue to begin with, so they're obviously going to stay with Joe Biden. So, we have all these states. And then, so we're going to fill out, of course, basically the map. I forget Hawaii. I always forget that. So that's 304 electoral votes for Joe Biden. And now we need to move on to some swing states that we haven't given to him. First, Florida. Then we go to Nebraska 2nd District, Maine 2nd District as well. And, of course, we must go to the states of Ohio and Iowa. So that's 359 for Biden. Now we're kind of reaching on very unlikely to happen. So what can we do next? Well, we can give him Texas. We can give him Georgia. And this looks like a best case scenario for him, right? So now we're kind of reaching the point. Okay, what can we do now? Because the rest of these states are just solidly Republican, Mississippi, Missouri, Indiana, South Carolina, Utah, and Alaska may be likely, but, they're still solidly Republicans. So we have to narrow it down. This field has to narrow down to essentially 10 states. So the first thing that we got to do is give the state of Missouri to Joe Biden, which is very, very unlikely. But there is a model actually that predicts that he's going to win Missouri. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's very far-fetched. But we're getting into very unlikely territory, possibly like less than 5%, followed by Indiana, which is followed by South Carolina, which is a very diverse state, but voter suppression has an unfortunate history there. And, this is a red state still. Now, I think I'm going to give Joe Biden Utah next, if we're doing this crazy scenario. And, I don't think he's going to win Utah, but if Romney and McMullen campaign there for him, and if he holds a few rallies there, he'll be able to make it close, and maybe he can win. And then we're coming up on Alaska, which is certainly a red state, but, it's very diverse, trending to the left, and Democrats did come close in a couple races there, particularly the governor's race in 2018. And again, this is not going to happen, but Alaska would go blue next, followed by the state of Indiana, which was blue in 2008, but again, that's very, very unlikely to happen. I mean, this is the home of Vice President Mike Pence. It was a solid Trump state. He won by 19 in 2016, which is unlikely to happen, remember, because Hillary Clinton was a horrible candidate for the Midwest. But if he's able to win in Indiana by, by 19, but I think he'll win Indiana by maybe 10 or 11, so, yeah. Then, this is the last state that comes to mind when we think of states that maybe have an under 5% chance at going to Biden. Montana, where you have all the Bullock and Cooney voters going to Biden, essentially. So, now we're at, how many states do we have left? We have 3, 5, 7, 11, and 14. So, we have 14 states left, so we got to fill out 4 more states for Vice President Biden. So the next state that comes to mind is Kansas, and they'd win Kansas. They'd win Kansas by getting out the voters who went against Chris Kobach. Because remember, Chris Kobach and Trump are similar politicians, but it's easier to vote against your party at the governor level than the presidential level. So yeah, it's unlikely that Kansas goes blue. But you'd have very high turnout from the urban areas. That'll just be enough to swing the state to the left. Then you'd go to 3 more states. Mississippi, going blue, like nearly 100% black turnout for that to happen. And no voter suppression, not a ton of voter suppression. And you have the white vote swinging a little bit to Biden. So now we got to do 2 more states. And I think that those states that would go blue would be South Dakota, and I guess I'll say North Dakota, as well as Nebraska's 1st district. So, yeah, so you give the rest to Trump, so we're just going to explain these two. So you give the rest to Trump. He's winning in these other areas. So you give the rest to Trump. You give Biden the first district. Those are essentially a couple suburbs of Omaha, but mostly rural areas out here. It's hard for the Democrats to win. I mean, they usually only get like 40% of the vote here, so they don't get blown out, but they don't really do well here. So Biden would somehow be able to win. And then for the Dakotas, you'd have high enough Native American turnout with no voter disenfranchisement, coming on huge numbers for Biden, the white vote turning against Trump due to the stuff he's done in South Dakota, particularly with those meat factories. So, yeah, that's what would happen for a Biden landslide. So I know this was not maybe the best video ever. I'm kind of in a rush right now. I apologize. I'm getting a little busy, so I forgot to pre-record a video. So this is your video for today. Tomorrow we're going to do the same thing for Trump. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And check out all the links in the description, and I'll see you all tomorrow.